So, howdy sweat boot campers. I'm just going to have a little go over of rows and back exercises. So I've done a short one before just talking about rows, but it's also just a general chat about posture. So we've covered a lot of this when we've talked about shoulders. So with your shoulders, we really want to be encouraging external rotation and activation of the back. Yeah, so we spend a lot of our time hunched forward. So whenever we're exercising, we definitely want to try and address that. So that's why always at the start, we are trying to mobilize those shoulder areas, and you want to be doing kind of a few prehab exercises to make sure that they're getting engaged and everything is working properly. So one of the good things of using is a band. So it's called shoulder flossing. So yeah, we often have a shoulder floss, but these bands are actually really handy when you're outside at the gym for working your lats, because that's one of the hardest muscles to get engaged and working without having a lat pull down or a pull-up bar or a chin-up. This is where the parallettes are very handy, which I have. Yeah, you're going to have to grow to love them. So these bands are really ideal for getting into the lat area because you can do your lat pull downs. Terrible example of posture there, Mel. So squeeze those shoulders back and down and then control it back up. Squeeze it down and control it back up. So you always want to have a little pause at the bottom of the move and then take it back. Yeah, so nice control. So you work your lats a little bit in rows and raises, but mainly it's the muscles of the upper back. But they will help in stabilisation. So then you're getting into your rows and raises. So we'll do some bodyweight exercises first because it is easy to hit the upper back quite easily with body weight. Yeah. So when you're on the floor, you want to be doing exercises which don't mean you try and headbutt a dumbbell. So you've got your Y, your T, and your I raises. Now you've got options when you're doing this. You want to press your hip bones and your nunar into the floor to make sure that you are activating that core. So my tummy is gently held, but you can either keep your head flat on the floor and not lift the legs, or you can lift the head as you squeeze those shoulder blades together, or you can lift the head and the glutes. So you're basically just trying to get a little bit of a bonus exercise out of it. The difference between the Y, the T and the I is the hand position. But let's not get too hung up on that. And I'm always thinking about external rotation, so I'm trying to get my thumbs up. So let's do the Y first. So feet together, tuck that tailbone so you're pressing your nunar and your hips into the floor. Inhale to prepare, and as I come up, I'm exhaling, squeezing my shoulder blades together, keeping my neck in neutral, and pushing my thumbs up to the sky, and then back down. So if you want to engage the glutes as well, so inhale, and then come up, and then you're exhaling as you lower. So inhale, exhale as you lower. That step's really getting on my nerves. Going to come over this way a little bit. Okay, so then you've got your T raise, yeah, which just means that your arms are out more parallel. So inhale, and as you exhale, squeeze those shoulders back and down. Again, keep the neck in neutral, squeezing those shoulder blades together. So that's with a neutral hand, but again, you could try and get a little bit of external rotation and take those thumbs up to the sky. So inhale, and then you've got the I raise where they're here. So inhale, so you can then do, when you really want to have some fun, you can have Y and T and I. So let's go, you've got Y, T and I. So we're squeezing the glutes. I am getting a little work of the lower back as well, but again, it's up to you which way you want to be doing that. So then, when you're in your upper plank position, I'm often talking about scapular retraction, which all I mean is getting those shoulder blades back, down and engaged. So it's also called like packing your shoulders. So when you're here in your upper plank, tailbone tucked under, you can also do it in your 3/4, you want to be taking the shoulder blades together and apart. So this is them squeezed together, this is them apart. So it's not a massive move, it's all in my upper body, and it's actually quite hard work. Yeah, so you can do it down on the knees. So you could easily add it into you've got your push up, and you could come up, scapular retraction. So it's called a push up plus. And it just gets the back involved and makes sure that your shoulders are healthy. So it makes that whole shoulder girdle, it just encourages it to move in the ways that it is supposed to. You are supposed to be able to let them protract and retract. So when you're down, you can also do dumbbell rows, yeah, renegade rows. So handy to have hexagonal shaped dumbbells because then they don't roll as much, yeah, so you feel a little bit safer and more secure. So look at the surface that you're doing it on. So I've got carpet, so it's actually really handy because it gives a little bit of friction. But if you've got a wooden floor, make sure that your dumbbells aren't going to slip. So I'll give you an alternative if your dumbbells are not stable. So you want to row, yeah. So I'm using my core and I'm squeezing into that back area. Yeah, so I don't want to get a bicep curl, so I want to keep my wrist straight. Yeah, so that is quite difficult, and it's a really good core workout if you've got a little bit of a floaty floor that is going to make the dumbbell move around. You can always do single arm rows, yeah, or do one, roll it over and do the other, which again is quite nice for core engagement. But you can do this without the dumbbells. You can do it in a 3/4 position, yeah. So squeezing into my back. And if you want to make it harder, you can take the hands narrower, and the feet together. Oh, look at the wobble. So you're trying to stay as still as possible and think about the back working, not the biceps, yeah. So you need to get that engagement. So squeezing back and down and release, squeezing back and down and release. So the bodyweight exercises are often what we do at the start of a workout, but the renegade row is usually an exercise in itself. Then say you're in the full workout, I might say, oh, we're going to do a double dumbbell row. So then you squat to pick your weights up, you come into that neutral spine. Now this posture is the most important bit. So you want to soften your knees, stick your bottom out, get that flat back. My dumbbells are hanging directly beneath my shoulders, my chest is slightly lifted and my neck is in neutral. So I'm going to inhale, squeeze into my back and then exhale as I'm lowering. So I want a little pause at the top. So that is a wide row. Then I could twist and have a narrow row. Yeah, that's cracking at the shoulder there, Mel. Or I can go from wide to narrow. So with the wide, you're flaring the elbows out slightly. Yeah. With the narrow, you're keeping them in tight. So, and it's always good to have a little jiggle around when you're coming out of it to relieve any tension, because we've all get tight lower backs, so that's why I also always start with cat and cow. But if you feel anything niggling or any sharp pains anywhere, you stop. Yeah, you'll know. So like sometimes you see when we do kettlebell exercises, I will drop the weight or I won't use a kettlebell, because when I'm doing the row, I definitely struggle to engage on a 12 kilo kettlebell. So onto the kettlebell row, seamless now, seamless. Okay, so you've got the kettlebell and you'd never have an explosion of dumbbells like this. Yeah, it's a terrible trip hazard. So shoulders back and down, I've got the kettlebell between me. I would always have the handle facing back. I'm going to bend, hinging at my hips, nice flat back, firm grip on the kettlebell, and then I'm rowing out to the side. So it comes back to the centre, out to the side. And again, squeezing into that back, trying not to move my back. Yeah, and then you can do alternating. Yeah. But just take your time. Think about the muscles that you are working and try and get that little pause at the top. Cool. Hottest day of the year. Great time to be doing this, Mel. So, the next exercise I want to demonstrate is a single arm row. Yeah. So again, squat down to pick your weight up. Notice I got rid of the 7s and went to the 6s. So if you're doing a single arm row, you might want to take the arm behind you to ensure that flat back, and you could take it narrow. Yeah, again, keeping that elbow drawing up and back and thinking about the weight ending up near the hip. You could take it wide. Yeah, and you could also vary your stance. So with the single arm row, what we often do is take one leg forward, that's your bent leg, hinge at the hip to get that neutral spine, and then you want to gauge and pull back. Now this is quite a good move for letting the shoulder move a little bit more naturally. But there is also the problem, there's a tendency of people to round. So you want to make sure that you can get your bottom extended right back. It's not a pretty look, but then, you know, we're in a gym or at your home, it's fine. Okay, and then in and engage. So always take your time setting up. So single arm row with the step. Again, get your set up. So I want to get into my neutral spine. So here, I just got on, I've not paid much attention. I need to get into my flat back. Core needs to be tight, and I want to be checking that my dumbbell is hanging straight down. Yeah. So again, this is another version which lets the shoulder do its bit and move naturally as well. So you want to gauge, pause at the top, back down. So and you're coming into those upper abs and really engaging and squeezing that muscle. So it's not about how heavy your weight is, you need to make sure you are getting that muscle engagement. Yeah, which is why we often do some body weight back activation exercises at the start to make sure that those muscles are wide awake. Now, my current favourite move is a rear lat raise. Okay, so this works similar muscles to the upper back rows. So you've got your traps, your rhomboids, teres majors, but it also is getting those rear delts, which are responsible for your external rotation. Yeah, so I want that. Okay, so nice flat back, my palms are face out. Again, I've got a hinge at the hips, my core is tight, and then I'm going to take them up and out to the side. Now, we've only just started doing these back in class again because we were trying to do them a little bit heavy, and the form wasn't brilliant. So it definitely needs to be light. I've got 3s here, I'd happily add 2s, yeah. Okay, and squeeze into that back. Yeah, so you only need to come to equal height to your chest, and you want to feel all that back squeezing together. And I'm going quite quick now because it's a demo, but when you do it yourself, go a little bit slower and get that pause at the top. So that is the key exercises. So sorry it was a little bit quick, but otherwise there's a lot to cover. So you've got your bodyweight exercises, which can be exercises in themselves. So as part of, like, when you're doing a HIIT circuit, often I want to make sure there's a little bit of back involvement. So we'll be doing stuff like the bodyweight versions and really concentrating on what you're doing. So there, your mind-muscle connection is key. And then when you add the dumbbells, you want to be concentrating on your setup. That neutral spine, tummy gently held, and extending through those glutes to push back with the hips. Yeah, and you want to feel like your heels are a little bit more weighted than your toes. You don't want to feel like you're rocking forwards. Okay, so we want to be doing more back exercises than we do chest exercises, just to address any postural imbalances. So, hope that answers some questions, and if you've got any more, just leave me a message down below. And yeah, hopefully see you in Sweat Bootcamp soon. Take care, guys. Bye.